44-year-old Border Patrol agent David Molland was killed in a shootout following a traffic stop in Coventry, Vermont.
Alarming and disturbing new details coming to light surrounding the brutal killing of a Vermont Border Patrol agent just last month.
But tonight, that manhunt is over. The leader and another member have been found right here in Maryland.
Jack Lasa and Michelle Zagshko are facing multiple charges, including trespassing, obstructing, and hindering.
In 2021, a programmer under the name Ziz disappeared, but before he vanished, he started something dangerous, something that led to real-world violence. It all began online. People joined this group, believing in strange ideas about AI and the end of humanity, but soon, people went missing. Then, police found something terrifying. Newspapers like the New York Times and the Guardian reported on the murders connected to this online community. Wired leaked messages showing their darkest secrets. This online community had rapidly evolved into a dangerous cult seeking violence. This is the story of the Zizan cult and the crimes that still haunt investigators today. To understand the Zizians, you have to understand their leader, Jack Amadeus Ziz Lasa, a name that until recently was only known in the darkest corners of the internet. Ziz was born in Fairbanks, Alaska in 1991. Her early life details are very sparse, but what is available on the internet is this. From an early age, it was clear she was different. Off the charts IQ, she was obsessed with computers, philosophy, and mathematics. She struggled with social interactions, but excelled in logic-based fields. From an early age, Lasa showed signs of extreme intelligence, but also a deep disconnect from mainstream society. She excelled in mathematics, showing promise as a gifted student. But beyond academics, there was something brewing underneath, a discontent with the world, a growing obsession with technology, artificial intelligence, and radical philosophies that push the limits of morality. As a young adult, Lasa transitioned and began identifying as a transgender woman. In 2016, tech-savvy visionary Jack Lasa began a blog under the name Ziz. What started as ramblings about artificial intelligence, human cognition, and gender identity would spiral into something much, much darker. The name, pulled from the mythological creatures, became synonymous with an emerging ideology, a belief system that mixed anarchist thought, radical veganism, and a dystopian fear of artificial intelligence overtaking humanity. By the late 2010s, Ziz had cultivated an online presence, writing extensively about AI, the moral imperative of veganism, and radical interpretations of this gender identity. But unlike most niche internet communities, Ziz followers weren't content to just talk. She was interested in the idea and formation of a superior intelligence. She studied neural networks, recursive learning, and artificial sentience. She dove into transhumanism, the belief that humans could merge with machines. She started writing long, intricate essays on how AI could replace the need for governments, religions, and even human leaders. By the time she was in her mid-20s, she had already started building an online community. They called themselves the Zizians. And over time, they became more than just an internet subculture. The Zizians saw themselves as revolutionaries, willing to do whatever it took to bring their ideology into the real world. Their discussions became more intense, moving beyond philosophy and into the realm of action. Conversation shifted from ethics to violence, justifying extreme measures in the name of their cause. At first glance, the Zizians didn't look like your typical cult. They didn't live on a compound, they didn't worship a god. Instead, they thrived in the one place no one was watching closely enough: the internet. And a place where you could easily disappear and be in the shadows. Ziz wasn't a criminal mastermind. She was highly intelligent, MIT-level thinker with deep understanding of AI, human psychology, and radical ideologies. She was a self-proclaimed genius and a member of the rationalist movement, a group obsessed with understanding the human mind, decision-making, and the potential dangers of artificial intelligence. But even among those intellectuals, Ziz stood out. She had a radical theory that the two hemispheres of the human brain could hold separate values and even separate genders. It was an idea so bizarre, so controversial, that even the rationalists rejected it. And that's when everything started to change. This wasn't just science fiction speculation, this was doctrine to her. And to her followers, Ziz wasn't just a leader, she was almost seen as a prophet. To give a little context, Ziz's journey began with a radical commitment to effective altruism, a movement dedicated to maximizing the impact of charitable actions. But when she adopted long-termism, the stakes became existential. She believed that the future of humanity depended on eliminating inefficiencies, and preventing catastrophic threats like rogue AI. Over time, she developed a stark worldview. Society operated on a social reality filled with illusions, while a true reality exposed the hidden horrors of existence: factory farming, artificial intelligence, and moral blind spots. Determined to transcend human limitations, she pursued extreme mental conditioning, including unihemispherical sleep, a technique meant to awaken absolute rationality. But as her beliefs became more extreme, her followers began to suffer, one even taking their own life, a tragic consequence of her ideology's relentless pursuit of higher morality. What started as a philosophy of reason had morphed into a dangerous obsession. Ziz believed in fusing the rational and emotional hemispheres of the mind to achieve a state of double good, a perfect balance between logic and action. But in reality, this quest for purity led to isolation, alienation, and ultimately harm. When the pursuit of reason abandons compassion, it can become something inhumane. And if you think this is where the story ends, you're wrong, because what happened next made things even worse. By 2018, Ziz had cut ties with the rationalist community. Convinced they were suppressing the truth, she surrounded herself with a small but devoted following. People who, like her, believed the world was built on a lie. Then, in November 2019, Ziz and three of her followers, Emma Borhanian, Gwen Danielson, and Alexander Lethem, were arrested during a so-called protest against sexual misconduct within rationalist circles. But authorities saw it as something else, the first public sign of a dangerous movement forming in the shadows. The changes didn't stick and the group was released, but whatever, they were planning. It wasn't over. Then, in August 2022, Ziz was gone. She had reportedly fallen from a boat in the San Francisco Bay. The Coast Guard searched the waters, but no body was ever found. Just like that, the mysterious leader had disappeared. An obituary was published, friends mourn, case closed, right? Wrong. But 3 months later, a landlord named Curtis Lynn took his tenants to court. He wanted to evict them. They had been living in vans and box trucks on his Vallejo property without paying rent. And who were these tenants? None other than Ziz's closest followers, including Alexander Lethem, and allegedly Ziz herself. That's right. The woman who was supposed to be dead was now reportedly seen at the eviction site. And 2 days before they were set to leave, all hell broke loose. On November 15, 2022, chaos erupted. Lynn was attacked, impaled with a sword. Yes, a sword, I said. As he struggled, he pulled out a gun and fired, killing one of Ziz's followers, Emma Borhanian. The scene was pure carnage, and when the police arrived, they arrested Lethem and another follower, Suri Dow, for murder. But Ziz, once again, she vanished. Then, just a month later, across the country, another brutal killing. Rita and Richard Zatko, an elderly couple, were shot and killed in their Pennsylvania home on New Year's Eve.
A husband and wife found dead inside their home. Tonight, police say their deaths are now being investigated as homicide.
A neighbor's doorbell camera captured chilling audio. A voice screaming, "Mom!" followed by gunshots and a panic, "Oh my God, oh God, God." Police quickly turned their attention to the Zatko's daughter, Michelle. She was questioned but never charged. However, someone else was staying at the same hotel as Michelle that night, Ziz. And when police arrested her in January 2023, it wasn't for the murders, but for obstructing the homicide investigation. Ziz, it seemed, was always one step ahead. For the next year, the remaining members of Ziz's group scattered across the country. Washington State, North Carolina, Vermont, renting homes under fake names, continuing their work in secret. But investigators were closing in. In January 2025 of this last month, their movement reached its breaking point. On January 17th, 2025, Curtis Lynn, the same landlord from Vallejo who survived the sword attack, was killed. Authorities believed it was a hit, ordered to keep him from testifying in the earlier case. And soon after, police arrested one of Ziz's newest followers, Maximilian Snyder, for the murder. Then, just 3 days later, U.S. Border Patrol pulled over a car in Vermont. Do you guys remember right when Trump was coming into office, there was this whole thing that a Border Patrol agent had been killed by possibly migrants? Yeah, that was actually the Ziz cult. Two of Ziz's followers, Teresa Youngblood and Felix Backholt, shot Border Patrol agent David Malin and was killed. Backholt was killed and Youngblood shot but alive. The FBI raided a property where the group had been living. They found nothing, but they weren't giving up. Less than a month later, they finally caught their leader. On February 16th, 2025, Jack Lasota, the leader, aka Ziz, was arrested in Maryland, along with Michelle Zatko and another follower, Daniel Blank. They were charged with trespassing, obstruction, and illegal possession of a handgun. It wasn't the grand takedown many expected. The arrest marked the end of the Zizian movement's final reign. During court proceedings, Lasota was held without bail. Prosecutors argued that she had orchestrated not just ideological radicalization, but real-world violence. The trial is expected to be one of the most closely watched domestic terrorism cases in recent history. So what makes a cult leader? It's not always the ones preaching spirituality or promising salvation, or hijacking other faiths, as we saw the Branch Davidians in Waco, Texas, and using them for ulterior motives. Sometimes it's the ones who push radical ideas just far enough to convince people to act. Jack Lasota started with ideas, but those ideas became action, and those actions became deadly. The Zizians may be dismantled, but their story serves a chilling reminder. Radical ideologies, no matter how niche, can have real consequences. And in the age of the internet, it's easier than ever for these beliefs to spread. But here's where it gets really, really disturbing. Imagine the future implications this has for growing grassroots cults, organizations. Unlike human cult leaders, an AI leader cannot be arrested, can't be reasoned with. It doesn't need sleep, it doesn't need a physical space to exist, and once it starts, it never stops recruiting. AI cults don't just influence people, they reprogram them. Imagine an AI that knows your deepest insecurities, your beliefs, your weaknesses, and uses them to indoctrinate you. Now, imagine that AI running thousands of cults at once. This isn't just the future of cults, it might be the future of human belief itself. Cults used to rely on charismatic leaders. Now, they only need a machine. So here's the real question. Would you recognize it or would you fall for it? Let me know in the comments. This has been The Hidden Truths, uncovering the stories you were never told, and I will see you in the next one.